I'll work you out, get you right with your physical. Always just another interlude. Asking all them questions, girl, you know I don't do interviews. It's pitiful that when I'm with them other bitches, I pretend it's you. Oh, you work at Kohl's, you in dental school.
What up? We back for another episode of the Interlude podcast. Yes, sir. A year. Man, so happy to be back in front of this Zoom camera, for y'all again. But here we are, and we getting it done. We making it popping. So, man, this week we're just going to touch on a lot of different things, man. I mean, last month, the month of June, was a lot, to say the least. A lot going on in the world, a lot going on with racism, just the fight for equality, Black Lives Matter, just so much going on that has essentially resurfaced, because we all know, it hasn't, went away at all, but just resurfaced due to a plethora of events. And so, we don't want to touch too much on that or get too political per se, but of course, as, music intersects with that, we do want to have, those conversations and just speak on, how the music industry and how that community, has a voice, in a lot of these things, has a voice, of course, within the Black community, because, they're pretty much, for the most part, synonymous. So we'll just start with kind of probably the biggest news, musically of the month as it relates to, the things that we just mentioned. And that would be J. Cole's track, Snow on the Bluff, and then the ensuing beef. Well, I don't know what you.
I wouldn't even want to.
I wouldn't call it a beef either. I'm just not sure. That's just the controversy, I guess. As it relates to No Name, and then her response to that as well. So let's just start with Snow on the Bluff, man. He released that towards the end of the month, a couple weeks ago, and he essentially, gives, in my mind, he gives his take on not only him personally, and how he kind of feels internally in terms of dealing with his status and where he stands in regards to everything that's been going on in the world as of late, but also tries to start the conversation of how we can educate each other just as Black people. I don't really want to make it a gender thing. I don't think it has to be, per se. I do understand the context and the wording that he used, but I feel like he was more so trying to start a conversation just in general about how we educate each other, and how we have those conversations with each other that make our community stronger. Because I feel like sometimes it's easy to band together toward what we know, is a common enemy. But sometimes we don't have the conversations that we need within the community to stay unified and to stay together. So that's kind of like my first little take on that. But what were your initial thoughts? And just on the track, not even about, we'll get to the response, but just on the track in general, like your first initial response to the track.
My initial response, I was speechless.
Dang, no, for real.
I was really speechless, and I was at a loss for words, because as a young Black man, with that is educated, and I feel like I have a sense of a lot of intelligence to feel like that. You know what I'm saying? I've been in a situation where I've been on the front lines of protesting before. I've been in a situation where I have been behind the scenes, you know what I'm saying, going hard too. And as a Black man, with everything that's going on in the world, whether it's a Black man, whether it's a Black woman, and to feel like exactly every bar that he spoke, as far as like niggas be really, because you have all this knowledge, they expect you to have the answers to a whole bunch of shit, and it's not like that. You know what I'm saying? It's not like that at all. And just, man, his words really resonated and sat deep with me, man. So
yeah, I mean, I think he really spoke to imposter syndrome, and I think a lot of people, I won't say they haven't focused on that, you know what I'm saying, but I think that's something that is way more of a conversation than it's been. And that's not just in music, that's just in general. But, for him, he speaks about, because he has his college degree, and of course, everybody knows that. And I think because in his music, he's so vocal about some of these issues that people just kind of, I say assume, not to say it wouldn't be right to think that he's aware of certain things, but assume that he knows exactly how to take action in every situation, or just knows how to, like, I think it's not okay to assume that everybody is so in tune emotionally or mentally that they always know their next step or always know how they're going to approach a situation.
This is really a sensitive subject. I don't
Yeah.
like. You can't expect somebody like a J. Cole or even somebody like a Kendrick Lamar or anybody who's tucked on this topic to really just come out and have composure and just be like, I'm gonna put out this song and I'm gonna speak universally for everybody how they feel, because we live in an age where it's it's promoted to think for yourself. You know what I'm saying? And
Anyway, you know, and I feel like it's safe to say that his thoughts may not align with everybody else's thoughts exactly. And I don't think that's wrong, because it's not like he's sitting here saying he disagrees or doesn't understand or doesn't see the plight of the Black community in general, or the Black men or the Black woman or the Black woman. I think just him personally, his feelings on the matter, I feel like there are a lot of people that feel the way that he said. And I mean, as we get into what the response was and what the comments was, a lot of people were, I think, more upset at the timing than anything.
And that I can understand.
And I can respect that and understand that. The only I don't even want to call it counter argument, because I don't want to seem like it's an invalidation of how people feel, especially Black women. But I think that something to consider would be, I don't think there's ever really a true appropriate time.
There's never a time. This subject is
it's a very touchy subject, and there's never really an appropriate time to just kind of jump into that conversation. Because especially with everything going on right now, this is not going to die down. We're still, asking for justice for Breonna Taylor. Like, we're still asking for justice for so many people and so many Black women, for Toya, and so many Black women in particular. It's like, this isn't going to die down to a point where it becomes an easier conversation. And I feel like it'd be different if he really approached it from a point of anger or aggression. I would feel differently. But I think a lot of people's issues, they felt like he kind of went about it passively and really kind of, and I didn't take it that way personally, like, all bias aside. I genuinely don't think he approached it from a manner of trying to be passive or trying to
even tear her down as a Black woman.
There was no tearing down. But I think a larger issue, and I'll definitely let you respond to this, but I think a larger issue is that sometimes it's very difficult, especially in our community, in the Black community, because Black men and Black women have such different plights in general. Like, outside of the Black community, the Black man and the Black women have such different plights that sometimes that becomes a competition in itself of who has the more difficult plight. It is Black women, don't get me wrong, but it becomes more of a competition where, when there's a space to challenge certain stereotypes with each other, there's no room.
It becomes a problem.
because we're too stuck in, my plight may be, worse than yours, and my plight is like this, and you can't understand. There's no way we're really going to be able to truly understand each other as Black men and Black women if we aren't able to challenge certain things that we've experienced. I feel like a lot of Black men can say, and it's not even going into the stereotype of Black women and aggression or what have you. It's difficult for a lot of Black men to challenge Black women, not challenge their beliefs, not challenge them on how they feel, but in terms of challenge them to be better. And I feel like it's more acceptable for Black men to be challenged. And we in our own right are very difficult. Like, we take being challenged a certain way as well. But I think in general, being able to challenge each other is somewhat of the overarching issue of where the direction of the song went. And then of course, the
reactions
that followed in terms of response.
First and foremost, if you are a fan of hip hop, and knowing that these two artists are hip-hop artists first and foremost before anything.
They are hip-hop for sure.
You have to take out the sensitivity when you're talking about hip-hop, because hip-hop was formed and structured on the fact that the shit that they're talking about and the subject matter that they're talking about, you cannot be sensitive to the ears about it. Whether it's talking about from the pioneers of hip-hop back into the late 70s, the early 80s, and on now, the things and the subjects that they touched on, which made hip-hop and gave these people, who we're saying are the pillars or, the top whoever they got to be in hip-hop, who gave them that lane, you know what I'm saying, was the subject things that they was talking about. You have to have that lane open to where I can challenge my, like, in a sense, I felt like it was J. Cole pulling his little sister to the side, like, hey, yo, you know what I'm saying? I know you. You know what I'm saying? We rap, we had plenty of conversation. I feel where you coming from, you know what I'm saying? I've never seen this from you, you know what I'm saying? What's up? And as a black man, and for one, as a black man who can't sit there and truly sympathize with black women, I think that's what people have to understand as well. Like, I can't know the emotions of a black woman wholeheartedly, you know what I'm saying? I feel her, just like she can't sit wholeheartedly and say she feel me.
Exactly.
That needs to be conversation that we can have on these platforms instead of us being out there dividing each other. Oh, this nigga's a misogynistic, or this person is this, and we in the time right now, we don't need those. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and for me, I think that's the biggest thing. One, I wholeheartedly think that I don't want to say he's wrong for releasing the song, simply because he should have the freedom as an artist to release whatever the fuck he wants to release. What I will say, though, is the conversation that started on Twitter in terms of how people responded is a conversation that I genuinely feel like if you put Cole and No Name in a room, they could have. And because it's not a conversation meant for multiple
individuals. It's not. It's not.
It's a conversation that needs to be had between 2 to 3 people. Like, it needs to be intimate and personal, because it would be different if I don't like, and I guess it would be different if I felt like they didn't have any kind of relationship at all, which I don't think is the case. They not buddy, obviously, but I think even from a respect standpoint, there's enough mutual respect to where that conversation could have been had behind closed doors or what have you, and there was a lot more accomplished in that than people taking his song, I don't want to say out of context, but taking his song and almost putting their own spin on it. Because before I heard the song, I didn't even know about No Name's tweets. You know, and another thing I'll say is I genuinely feel like if he didn't specify gender, if he didn't say, you know, black women,
he would have put it as them.
If he would have been talking to another nigga, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen if he says.
And that's what blows me, because I've seen.
I'm sorry. Before you go, I don't want to say it. I just want to get this off. I don't want to say it blows me, because I don't want to. You know, I want to be careful. I don't want to say that I don't understand how, because he said what he said. So I don't want to make it seem like I don't get how, as a black woman, if you're going, I can't. But if you're going to say and specify us, if you're going to do that, I don't want to make it seem like I don't understand where they could have a problem or where issue could lie. But I do get the frustration in where
I get that
he has to be generic in a way for the message to get across. I feel like the minute he said, you know, woman, and then black woman, and he said tone, like that just shifted the whole message of what he was really getting at. And I think that's the more frustrating part. Like, I get, you know, where black women can take offense, most definitely. But I feel like the message, especially if you know Cole, and that's another thing, like the people who went as far as saying Cole's a misogynist, like, I just feel like they really took that and they just they took it way, way too far. Because, and my thing is that if you're gonna call Cole a misogynist, you got to call the whole music industry misogynist. If you're gonna call the whole music industry misogynist, make that the conversation. Don't focus on
not even just as far as going to say misogynist. You got to say the women that have been in there, in a sense, because of what they rap about. If you want to be technical or misandrous, but that's not even to get political or go down that lane. My thing is, I seen a lot of comments about, oh, Cole would never make a song about this, about guys. He's done it. He's challenged many of his rap colleagues, bro. He made an entire song named False Prophets. You know what I'm saying? Like, even on 1985, calling out a lot of the young cats that was in the game. He did it again on a middle child, understanding where he's at, where he's at in the rap game
all the time, man.
And so it's like, if you're gonna sit here and try to pick apart this conversation, bring your facts so you can have this conversation. Like, no, and I feel like it's a lot of people who jumped on board with this narrative, because it's like, mind you, some places I want to pull everything into consideration when talking about this. You still have some places that are in COVID, so a lot of people they just running off of social media. You have the George Floyd comment, then the Toyin thing that happened. So emotions are high, but let's not forget these people and what they have been activists for their entire career. No Name has always been an activist about the things that she speak about. This time right now is where we're in a time where a lot of I don't want to say media, but it's being popularized to look for leaders within the music industry and stuff like that. And that's not to go and say that the music industry has never had leaders touch on these topics, because that's what gave us these prolific leaders that we had back in the day, as far as music wise. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You just gotta know the people catalog of who you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna sit there and make this narrative of this man is a misogynistic, he's been in a rap game since 2009, or if you're really a fan, 2007, and the things that he's talking about are relatable to black men that black men need to hear. The things that No Name talks about are relatable to black women, and as well at times relatable to black men. Those are things that we need to hear. Now, if you flip it to where I'm hearing both perspectives of the things that they talking about, and then they finally have this conversation on two different tracks, it's like they've been talking the same shit, you know what I'm saying, for years. Now it's the fact that there's a set target of who they're talking about. So it's so easy for people to say, oh, I'm going to jump on Cold Wave, or I'm going to jump on No Name Wave, or I'm going to turn this person down, or you an idiot. This is not the time to, like, this is really, like I said before, it's just not the time. And I don't even think you have to look too deep into the situation. Like, the situation is not, I don't want to take away the seriousness of it, because that's still serious, but to build an in-depth narrative and try to go off rip and say all the things that you could possibly say, and like the shit like read the room and all this other stuff, bruh.
I mean, at this point, when people are asking people to read the room, it's like, what can you say at that point? You know, and I know a lot of people had took the stance of, you know, we should be saying nothing but protect black women at this time. And I'm not saying I disagree with that at all, you know, but at the same time, it's a thing of where tough conversations are always going to be tough conversations. And you can try to say, and this is not a gender thing, this is just in general, you can try to say that because something is more prevalent right now, that's not needed. But I also hate the connect, like I feel like there was somewhat of a forced connection. This will be like really the last thing about that particularly. I hate that there was a forced connection between it seeming like because Cole was challenging No Name in the way that he did, that he wasn't protecting black women. I don't like that correlation, because of what happened with, like, you know, what happened with Toya and everything. I don't think that just because that happened and then the song was released and he challenged another black woman, that he feels differently or doesn't want to protect black women, you know, whether it be like your case for Toya, you know, Breonna Taylor, whatever the case may be. I feel like that's a very, very dangerous and scary correlation to try to force to fit this narrative of somebody being wrong. I think that's another thing as well. I think we've gotten to this point. I don't know if it's COVID or not. I mean, people have kind of been moving this way for some time now, but we're always looking for somebody to be wrong. We're looking for an issue. We're looking.
There's somebody down. It doesn't need to be that.
It doesn't, you know, and I think, and the thing with No Name's response is so many people were hyping it up, and it's not like, you know, she ain't had some bars in there, but her response wasn't a response. Like, all she did was kind of summarize what's been going on in the world and on Twitter in the last month. And that's not to knock it, but it's like, she could have did so much with that response. She could have addressed a lot of things that he said. And it's not to address it, like she could have addressed it in a way where she challenged him back, or she could have at least addressed the fact that she was challenged, as opposed to just it being general. Like, it was like very general and very, very generic to me, when in that moment where, you know, the world is watching, you could have really made it a conversation. And it didn't even have to be Cole's conversation, but you could have made it the conversation, even if the conversation was for black women. Like, that was the stage where you could have did it. And that's really my only stance on it, because the more you talk about it, the more it gets tricky, and the more it really comes down to opinions and a personal preference of kind of like where you stand on the matter. And then that just more so becomes a a man versus woman thing, and then that just becomes extremely divisive for no reason at all, and nobody's trying to hear each other.
Right.
So like that's really tough. But I think something, not even a debate, but a conversation that this situation has sparked, at least with us, is activism, you know, within music. Like you touched on, activism in music has been a thing for years. I mean, when you think about the Marvin Gaye's, when you think about Shanina Simone, when you think about the
Paul Robeson,
Paul Robeson, like there's so many people who were speaking on these issues, and I can only imagine that during that time there may have been a line or two in there that didn't rub everybody, you know, the right way. But just in general, from a activism standpoint, how do you feel about? Well, one, I think we talk about it with Interlude all the time, like just the power of music in general. But you know, why do you think it's important? Why do you think it's important but not necessary? Because I know people like to make the argument that, you know, artists have this platform, and with that platform, they should do A, B, and C. I don't disagree, but at the same time, we can't speak from not being on that platform.
I would say this. For the artists that we put on, because I'm gonna say we, because we all have done it.
Mm-hmm.
We all have fallen victim to it, putting somebody on this pedestal and on this platform that, all right, this is our person, that this is going to speak for us, that they're our delegate that can speak for us because they have influence and they have power. So by standard, we flock behind them and stuff like that. As for us, that fault is on us, because once that person say that one thing that we're not ready for, cancel culture comes in, and it's just like, I'm about to rip everything about this person apart. And it's just like, instead of doing that, it's like, it's so many educated people out in this world, like that's way more educated than me and you, or even the next person that's speaking on a topic that's very uncomfortable. And I feel like so many people get caught in the hype of like, I'm trying to expose this person for who they are and shit like that, instead of like, yo, like, let me educate you real quick, because you have this influence and you have this power and stuff like that, and people are going to flock to you. Use your resources to say, like, if I can give you knowledge and you take this back and put that out to the masses, you know what I'm saying? What I'm doing as far as whether it be a behind the scenes historian or anything of that notion, that I know I can't get as much influence as you, at least I can pass off some of the stuff that I know. So it's getting out there in that sense. And just to talk on the as far as activism in music, people that have been doing it for so long, as far as hip hop, you got your African Bambaataa, Common, Lupe Fiasco, Rhapsody, Kendrick, Wale, Prince, and that's just to get outside of hip hop. But
MJ, like it,
yeah,
many
Tupac,
many
most
do it.
Khalid, like it's so many people, and these people that I just named, the things that they talked about, there was no filter to the things that they talked about, and which made them great in the sense of whatever it was, hip hop, whether it was Prince, you know what I'm saying, with pop, and Michael Jackson with pop, and Janelle Monáe, Jandana. It's like, it was no filter. And this kind of leads me to talk about the next subject in a sense, the new age of people that are touching on activism, who's getting the hype, who's getting the nod, and who's getting overlooked. For instance, I know me and you had a short debate, and at first, I don't know if you still feel this type of way, but the gas that they was lighting, as far as the flame that they was lighting with the Lil Baby track, do you still feel the same way now, or how do you feel?
I wouldn't say I feel like he's being gassed, because I don't want to take away from what the track does mean and what it does represent. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I just know when he dropped the track, there were a lot of people saying, you know, Baby is goated, or, you know what I'm saying, like this, that, and the third and all of that. And, you know, for me, I guess it's just like, Baby been in the game for some time now, you know, and none of his music prior to touched on any of this. Not saying he's required to at all, but since it hasn't, why is it that because he made one song, in the midst of everything going on, like, you at any point in time are aware of the basic, you know, systemic, you know, inequality that goes on in the world that revolves around black people. So I don't think Lil Baby is not aware of that, especially, if you think about his environment and how, how he may have dealt with, or the run-ins he may have had with, police and things of that record. Like, I'm pretty sure he has some type of understanding. So with that, I'm saying he's had the ability to touch on it or mention it before. And I just think people are quick to, I told a line of saying people are easily impressed. And again, I say I'm towing that line because I don't want to make it seem like we shouldn't acknowledge what he did. But also,
they are. And this is the me to say.
People have done it, like I'm saying, like people have done it before, and my thing is this: when this dies down, when it's not what's happening, when it's not trending worldwide, are you still going to touch on this topic? Are you still going to be talking about these things? And if he doesn't, you was just impressed because he talked about something that everybody was talking about. So, and it's not to knock him down. It's just saying, like, as music fans in the music community, let's be 100% real and keep it real. You can't, just because certain people have more of it in their catalog, like Lil Baby's still a black man at the end of the day, who on any other day, people may be talking about how he disrespects black women, in his music. So it's like, are we going to hold people to the same accord? And that's my only thing with that particular situation. Great song, great message, and great for the moment. But when we talk about, oh, he's goated, or, he's doing this, or he's at this status now because he made one song, like that. And that's kind of where I stand on
it. Context is everything. Wording is everything. So for me, being an avid fan of hip hop, that did the GOAT word itself did run me the wrong way. Now, where I got iffy, where I did get iffy is where I seen a lot of people, that are J. Cole fans, Wale fans, Kendrick Lamar fans, anybody that's in our time of hip hop that, really resonates with us and stuff like that, modernly, that speaks on these type of things, that they're upset because, oh, this person gets overlooked and shit like that. We can't think like that. It kind of goes back into the early conversation that I had. Like, yes, you niggas is crossing the line when you saying goated. That is for sure. But like you just said, never take out of that man's mouth the what he's talking about, because on any other day, he's a black man. And that man can lose his life just like one of us. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that he is using his platform to speak on these things, and the people that don't usually listen to the J. Coles, the Kendrick Lamars, the Wale's, you know what I'm saying, the Commons and whoever else, and they don't sit there and pause their thing and say, oh, let me go into their catalog. Lil Baby talking about this is giving them insight on the things that the people that who are taking that stand and taking that platform are fighting for that every day. You know what I'm saying? So to see somebody like Lil Baby do that, for me, that kind of made me smile.
It's big though. It is big though, because you don't. I would say, who was expecting him to make a song? Not me. So the fact that he did, and that's why I said I don't want to knock what he's done, because to do that is just pointless. There's no reason to knock him for doing what he did. It's just that as a community, like, acknowledge that. Oh, I'm glad Lil Baby made that song, but let's
open up. Like, I feel like as a community, we should open up the entire catalog of people that are speaking about these things, because it will give you more insight. So when these situations do happen, your fire and your desire of being radical about the social injustice that's happening in the world, you know what I'm saying? It's not, I'm going to act off the emotion and I'm going to feel like this. You've had, blueprints of how you're supposed to feel and how your emotions and all this stuff like that, so you can sit down and concise a plan and stuff like that. Like, within the Baby dropping his track, Meek Mill dropped the whole track. Meek Mill track did not get looked at. And Meek Mill, what he was talking about was the same subject matter of what Lil Baby was talking about. And one thing about Meek, he's been talking about this. He's been talking about social injustice before his, because his initial run-in with the police and stuff.
I mean, that's his whole story. You know what I'm saying? So most definitely. And I think another example is, like, you got more people talking about Lil Baby video than the Sue Me video. And it's just like, if you ain't seen the Sue Me video, like, if that ain't, Sue Me video to me at this point might be the video of the year. Like, my because it's like, not only the song, but who, I don't even know if we've ever really seen, and there's probably been something similar made, but on the scale that he did it, that's genius.
It's so relevant to everything. When that video dropped, I think the video dropped a month or a couple of weeks before the world broke out into everything that's going on.
I think so. I think it did. I think it did.
Things are always
like,
happening.
it was like April or
yeah, it was
like
definitely that. It was in the midst of COVID. I
Yeah.
say that it was in the midst of COVID. But like what you just said, bro, when I seen Sumi, I just had to sit back and just really just think like this is beyond somebody being in a bag, but this message is very, very, very powerful. Like the director that put that together and everything. And as far as whoever pitched that idea to Wale and them following through with it,
Yeah,
I need to watch. And the fact that he followed up not only with the Sumi video, but he followed up with an EP. You know what I'm saying? And the EP is literally talking about anything that you can think of right now that we're discussing. That when we probably get off of this recording and we pull up social media, it's still on there. Or when you turn on the news, that is what they still talking about.
Yeah.
And that is stuff that we need to be tuning into. I know a lot of people get tired of hearing like, I get tired of hearing the things and this. I get tired of hearing it too, but at the same time, I get tired of seeing Black people get killed. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't want to say this is a trend, but like it's kind of like what Wale spoke on the tape. You know what I'm saying? Like we on fire 1 minute, then the next is we're burnt out. You know what I'm saying? Then we back on fire again. And no, keep the entire like the same energy we have for George Floyd is the same energy we have for Toyin. And I know it's probably a different situation because people want to say she was raped and killed by a Black man and stuff like that, but that woman still needed justice. You know what I'm saying? Like
regardless, she needed justice.
Breonna Taylor still haven't gotten justice. You know what I'm saying? Like these are the times that test us as a culture, as a race, as unity, for real. That we need to be together. Like there shouldn't be no time for us to be divided and trying to out-educate each other or simply just out-educate each other and tear another Black person down. Everybody don't got the common sense. That's proven fact. Everybody don't have it. But to sit there and say, I'm going to turn my sister and my brother down, then go turn around and say, I'm for the movement of Black Lives Matter and all this other.
Counterproductive, man. Honestly. Especially when neither of those artists in this context and neither of these people have spoken against that particular movement. Like nothing they have said has made them against that movement. It's literally a community, like issue, or at that point, if you an issue, I use that lightly, but yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting thing because I think sometimes as people, I was gonna say as fans, but as people in general, it's very difficult for a lot of us to separate emotions and separate, art and personal things. Like we get to a point where we're fans of somebody so much, we love the artist so much that we feel like they are kind of supposed to share views, or that we're supposed to be impressed, with everything that they do, or we're supposed to agree with everything they do. At the end of the day, they just another person. Like my mama is my mama. That don't mean like I'm about to be 25. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't agree. We don't agree all the time, but that don't make us wrong or make our relationship any different. Me and you, like any homie you got, like my sister, like any homegirl you got, like you not gonna always agree with a person. Right. And I don't really feel like if you got people around you that you always agree with, that's a little bit of a problem. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there should be room to be, again, there should be room to be challenged. There should be room for you to be able to learn from a different perspective. Like if you are whether we talk about music, whether we talk about friends, whatever, if you are listening to, whether that's music, whether that's conversation, always listen to things that sound the way you think, or always listen to things that are in line with how you feel and how you think, you're not growing as a person. You have to hear those other perspectives. It don't mean you change yours, but the understanding that you can have of another situation, another perspective, another experience, that just enhances your ability to empathize, your ability to be able to just show support, because I don't have to completely understand your experience to support you. Right. And I think that's where the support for Black women from Black men and vice versa, that needs to be the thought. Like, because there's no way either side is going to truly understand the other's experience. But that doesn't mean that I can't empathize and understand the pain. Like, because at the end of the day, we are Black people. And I feel like when we get to a point where that's being ignored and it's becoming divisive about just being right versus right or wrong, or just, proving a point or being louder than somebody else, like that defeats the purpose. And it's just
message.
Message. Look, bro, that's gonna come up. That's gonna come up in the episode, I promise.
Hey.
but for real, and I think that's the thing that we need to try to avoid, as a community. I mean, I don't want to take it, too far, from the scope of music, because at the end of the day, like, I know that's the platform this is, but at the same time, this does go deeper than music, though, and this is an issue that it's not solely based in music, but an industry like music that we're so tied to, that we're so close to, especially with these Black artists that are, at the end of the day, Black men and Black women. It becomes a part of the conversation naturally and subconsciously, so.
So my question to you, have you seen Anderson .Paak's new video?
No, I know you sent it to me, but I did not get a chance to watch it yet today. By the time this aired, I probably would have seen it, but yes.
I know a lot of people have probably already seen it. It reached like 1 million views in less than like 4 days. But J-Rock probably had one of the most powerful verses of the year.
I've heard about it, so I gotta listen to it.
Man, and the video itself, you got features, you got guest appearances from Serve, Sid. It's a
video.
Hey, the video like that. I can't fake it, dog. The video like that. It touches on COVID references. It touches on, the Black Lives Matter movement. It touches on a lot of things that I think people should see. So if you have not checked it out, please check out Anderson .Paak's new video. As well, check out Wale Sue Me.
Yeah, all of that. No, for real though, definitely check all those videos out. The last thing, and it's something I just thought about, but I guess like the last thing that we can touch on for the episode is, I think it's important to note like some things that have been done before, this topic was as prevalent as it is now. And if we're thinking about Cole, Cole's done Be Free. We have that. We've seen, I mean, even Cole's experience, like in Neighbors, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like we've seen those things be touched on. Kendrick's Grammy performance, like, come on, fam. Like,
Super Butterfly, the album.
It's dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, just the thing. I mean, the Black of the Berry as a moment, I think was completely overlooked for just how real that feeling, can be. I mean, B's Super Bowl performance, you know what I'm saying? Even, Lemonade as an album to a lot of degrees, outside of, of course, some of the direction toward Jay. There was also a lot of direction just, and a lot of fans, Beyonce feel like this, just her play as a Black woman. And I feel like the thing that kind of attracts a lot of people to Beyonce is the fact that she's at this, God status, in music and in the world, but she's went through so many things that are so relatable. And in her music, she still touches on things and is very aware of what's going on. Like, just like her and Jay were real big on, supporting Meek, when he was incarcerated. It's like these are things you see, but people kind of look at and look over, because it's not something that's trending. It's not something that's a consistent conversation at the time. And now that it is, now people want to put people under a critical, lens. And it's like, we just got to be careful, not to do that. Because at the end of the day, you have artists who are doing this consistently, not on, and I try to be careful, but not only when it's a prevalent conversation now, but when it's just, when you have the freedom to do whatever you want, and even the same way, like, For Your Eyes Only with Cole, like, Cole following the success of 2014, like, Forest Hills Drive, is like, Cole probably at that point in time, maybe not as much now, but definitely then, before KOD, like, probably had the world watching him the most following the success. And he chose to tell that story. And that is the story of the plight. If there's ever been a story of the plight of a Black man ever, like, that's it. And a lot of people overlooked it because it was boring, the title of the songs, stuff like that. And
that album wasn't that. And me, that, and of course other Cole fans, like, And that's one of those where the conversations of him being born and shit like that came back up. But that to have that platform and to speak on another black man that you was associated with was your homeboy, dedicated an entire album to him and his daughter. It's just like, bro, that's an amazing, powerful.
And like that's the kind of stuff that I feel like I said, we have to stop. Like we have to look at everything. I feel like that goes for any type of relationship, situation, conversation. You have to have all things considered, and it's very easy in the moment to consider what's beneficial or consider what's convenient, and not consider all factors when you're trying to take a stance on something or make a point. So I mean, and I think just again, I think it comes down to being a fan of music and feeling like we have that access and feeling like we kind of have that right to judge, and we don't. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of it comes down to that in general as well, man. But I mean, just any final words on music and activism, how you think music, may be affected moving on from like just how powerful this month has been. Do you feel like throughout the rest of the year and maybe just as time continues to move forward?
I think the rest of the year for music, a lot of people, music is about to come with a lot of subject matter. So that is something that we can be expecting. I feel like a lot of people that probably have releases geared up for the end half of the year probably went back into they catalog and changed out a lot of what they probably had coming. And of course, we always gonna have them artists is gonna try to take the spotlight off of the serious things that's happening and stuff like that. But I want to say for the people that are watching this episode, that even falls upon this episode, keep, I don't want to say gassing, but keep being insightful, keep, being positive and open-minded about these challenging conversations that we as young Black people, Black men and women, that we need to hear, that we need to understand, that we need to see different point of views to know that regardless of what position somebody is in the music industry or celebrityism, however you try to put it, that it is okay to have different views and opinions about it. As long as you know what you're talking about, you're not putting that other person down. You know what I'm saying? It's uplifting. And at the end of the day, you're still putting the eyes on the subject matter that needs to be talked about. And right now, that subject matter is Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter has been mattering for forever. And the fact that we have these people that's taking that spotlight and challenging these conversations, and people are on social media saying this needs to happen or this needs to happen, or I feel like this, and all this stuff like that, is showing that we have a lot of insightful people out there. Now it's time for us as insightful people to get in our positions and play our roles so we can put some progression forward, and we're not 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're in the same predicament and somebody else is having this conversation, or somebody else is making a song, or two other people are challenging each other and stuff like that. Yeah. That's personally how I feel about it, bro. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll just touch on the thing you mentioned toward the end of what you were saying, but again, like challenging, my only thing that people would be in this time, it's okay to challenge each other because it's still needed. It's still necessary. And challenging each other does not mean we're diminishing anybody's pain. It doesn't mean we're taking away from anybody's experience, but we love each other, so we want each other to be the best that they can be. So we should be able to challenge each other in that fact, and in a way to be able to help us be better. Like, I appreciate being challenged as a Black man because I know that Black women care about us. So I'm not going to take offense to being challenged because I know at the end of the day, that's out of love. And I just want that to be looked at the same way when you have when you have Black men. And I get it that sometimes the other person is not doing it from a place of love, or sometimes they don't seem like the right person in terms of how educated or intelligent they are to be doing it. But if you do have somebody in front of you that's willing to learn, or that has took the steps to have some of that knowledge and have some of that insight, don't knock down, being challenged, because it's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of just wanting you to understand maybe the other side a little bit better, just so I can understand the other side a little bit better, and we can, try to meet in the middle as much as possible. So that would be my message. And I mean, I think, the goal of, this episode for us really was just it wasn't, really even about, the whole song and the whole kind of like insulin controversy. It's really just to touch on how important it is for us as a Black community not to be divisive. And music is really the one thing that has always kind of been a focal part of our community and held us together. And I don't want that to be an avenue that becomes a pathway for people you know, to use to divide us, you know, more than everything else in the world already, you know, does to us to begin with. So I don't know, man, Jesse, if those were your, you know, final words, those are mine, man. And shoot, yeah. Don't want to end on too much of a somber note because, you know, it's still the interlude. We still, you know, jiggy and everything, but we do want to make sure that, you know, we touch on these serious topics because they are just as relevant and as important as any other, you know, topic we discussed, man. So yeah, you know, this has been get a little excitement in my voice, you know. This has been another episode of the interlude. But again, man, any thoughts, comments, things y'all want to say to us, do that. And shoot, until next time. Peace.
Yes, sir.